everybody. This is Shawn. You are listening to a mini episode of the Never Heard of It podcast, and I'm joined, as always, by
Craig Moorhead, co-host and co-founder of Never Heard of It, the podcast where we generally talk about things that have fallen in or between your cracks, or I don't know, are just sitting nearby your cracks.
Maybe just in your pocket.
Sure, maybe you just got something in your pocket. Maybe you got a little schmutz on your eyeglasses. You don't know.
That's us.
Yeah,
we're the schmutz.
On these mini episodes, we talk about stuff that that people know about at least a little bit, and we try to prove our how bad we are at predicting box office. Is also another thing that we do. So
yeah, and we do that part well.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
As always, come find us at neverheardpodcast.com. You'll find links to everything you need in all of our full episodes. We got some good ones coming up. I'm really excited. We got some suggestions and another guest.
Yeah.
Craig, I think we should start with this article you sent me.
All right.
And why don't you just describe it a little bit and how it caught your eye?
I will. First of all, I believe the screenwriter's name is Eric Heisserer.
I think that sounds good. I wasn't sure how to pronounce the last name either, but that sounds as good as anything I'll say.
Well, apologies to Mr. Heisserer if that's not true. But so Eric Heisserer is the writer of the movie Arrival, which came out recently, which I have not seen, but I've heard a lot of good things about, and it certainly looks like a very interesting movie. Right now on the website Talkhouse, if you're familiar with this, he has an article up about the writing of Arrival. And some of the things he learned doing it, and so it's kind of a smattering of things that happen, things having to do with writing a screenplay, adapting a story for a screenplay, and really one of the things, the thing that really grabbed my attention on this was because I've run into this myself, and several times I've never found my way out of it, which is writing a story about people who are way, way, way smarter than you, and who know things that you like. You know that there are people who know these things, but you have no idea what those things are really, or how to pull them into a story. And it can get really hard. You can do a lot of research and you can talk to people, but it can be very difficult. So the most interesting thing to me, it was probably point number 2 about let smart people be smart. Where he kind of talks about, how do you portray these people when, as a screenwriter, a lot of times you're told, don't spend tons of time just on exposition. And when you have a movie about someone who's trying to learn how to speak to aliens, how can you not have tons of exposition? No one knows nobody knows this stuff. So he goes into that, and I won't spoil any of that really, but I just wanted to point people in the direction of that article because I thought it was really interesting.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that because that is exactly the paragraph or the part that I'm looking at and had saved to quote from. Because
right on.
I thought you were going to talk about he spent a little bit of time talking about how he was pigeonholed as a horror writer because that's where he found success. His first option and sale came not from a couple specs that he had written in sci-fi, but in horror. And then I think he did one of the Nightmare on Elm Street remakes, I think, as well as The Thing, the remake of that. But so I was expecting that because I certainly can relate to that. But also like that was exactly what I was drawn to, was that part about that. And I'll just read this little line here that he said, what that meant for me was that I had to embrace the expository moments. Smart people are constant teachers, and I had to unlearn my own rule about avoiding moments where a character stopped to explain or define something. Sometimes it's welcomed. And that's so true. I mean, think about how many movies where if you just had a little bit of exposition, you could clear up so many different things. I also thought of, there's a great novel by Haruki Murakami, Japanese novelist, called 1Q84, and it's like a multi-character thing, and there's a lot of he does a lot of magical realism kind of stuff, but there's a character in there that is a science fiction writer, or writer at least, and there was something in there. They even talk about writing in the novel, and it says something about, like you describe the stuff that people don't know. Like that's,
right.
You don't need to like there was a part where there's two moons that appear. And it's like, you don't have to describe one moon, but when there's two moons, you got to describe that because you have to help people figure that out. And I can't imagine, like, I'm dying to see this movie as well, but even just based on the trailers, like it does feel like, that's a territory you'd have to get into quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. And he also gets into, at some point, including images in his screenplay. A really cool idea. Yeah, he was turning himself into pretzels trying to describe it in a way that would be clear to the reader. And I think it's his wife at some point just suggests, well, why don't you just put the image in the screenplay so that people just look at it and they see what it is? Because you're going to see it in the movie. You have to.
Yeah.
So
that honestly, it made me think that how long have they been making movies now? For 100 years?
Yeah.
It's crazy that screenplays actually haven't evolved to become something more visual than they are. I mean, like, it makes no sense. Like, honestly, like, these things would probably be more useful as a sort of digital, like, graphic novel at this point, you know? And in some ways, as a writer, I would kind of welcome that. Like, I do think it would get your point across, and hearing him, like, he talks about, like, getting that feedback. Well, so much is dependent upon the execution, which he has, like, a polite way of saying they don't think you can do it.
Right.
Yeah, you can show exactly how it would be done, So I thought that was really cool.
Well, yeah, especially for a spec. Because obviously, like, once you get to production, you kind of need pages that can be normalized and figured out. But yeah, I mean, that's really true. Yeah, why aren't they more?
But even those, like, that's like a day-to-day thing. Like, you really don't need that until the day scenes that you're shooting, and then I mean, obviously, for
the AD has to
have some of that,
right?
Yeah, but it's you can do that sort of because they turn them into sides as little tiny copies anyway. Mm-hmm. But this will be a kind of a good segue, I think, to the fact that I went to the movies for the first time in forever.
Congratulations.
This past week, and I think maybe we went with my wife and another couple. I'm guessing we might be the only people in America that actually went to the movies to see The Accountant, but ended up watching Doctor Strange. It was a small room, and it was one of those theaters where they have like love seats and recliners and stuff.
Nice.
And so it gets like they're just positioned a little weird. So there were not four seats remotely close together. I think we could have like cuddled up with another couple in a love seat or something. I'm not about to do that. So we were like, this is not working. We ended up watching Doctor Strange, and there's a movie actually where they did have to explain a lot because it was a different world, and worlds. Actually, there's a multiverse. That's kind of the talk of this movie. And man, it really kind of dragged me down through the first half of the movie, or even longer. And that was a case where I do think they needed to explain some, but maybe they went a little too far, for my opinion.
Sure.
On doing too much, because this is like a Marvel movie. I want to go, I want to have fun, and I don't know. I mean, I know you've probably seen your fair share of Marvel movies at this point. I think we all have. Yeah. I haven't seen the latest Civil War, and I think the Captain America before that I didn't even see. But anyway, I've missed my share. But I do think, it's interesting watching these movies in that I feel like I'm always left wanting more from the bad guys, the villains.
Sure.
And like, I kind of know what they want. Right. I kind of know why they're bad, but that's all they really ask me to. Like, they really just, okay, you get the idea. This guy's bad. He's trying to like, destroy something.
Yeah.
Whether you understand why or not, and like this was the same case, and like the main villain was played by Mads Mikkelsen, who I love. Yeah. He's a terrific actor. He's so much fun to watch, and so interesting. And he was good. He was great, and like he carries a lot of that stuff very well. But at the end, I'm like, I don't know that I probably couldn't tell you what that plot was about. I don't know. Like, there was another like dark planet involved that wanted to take over things, and Tilda Swinton was bald. I mean, there's a lot of that stuff that I think works so much better on the page of a comic book, because so many comics are just exposition in a lot of ways.
Sure.
I recently was looking through mine with my daughter, and she was like, "Oh, I want to read one," and so I had a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I sat down and started reading. I was like, oh my God, this is a drag. Like it's all so much exposition, But I don't know. What's your take on the whole kind of Marvel scene? Do you have any sort of strong opinion? Do you feel like you want to see Doctor Strange? Are you dying to see this movie?
I will definitely see the movie because Marvel, by and large, I've enjoyed all of their movies to differing degrees, but I've enjoyed them all. Civil War is a very good point. Civil War is a very unique movie in that I enjoyed it all the way through. It has the exact same problem that you're talking about, where the villain is really barely even registers at all. So much is about these heroes fighting each other, but that movie's kind of about more interesting ideas than you normally get, I think. So that's why I like that one so much. What I'm wondering about Doctor Strange is that I know that he is kind of a gateway to another whole corner of the Marvel universe in terms of going into all these worlds. And I'm wondering if that's kind of the thing where this is kind of a movie trying to set all that stuff up. And so it just feels jam-packed. Sure.
Yeah, and I kind of expected that, and I think you've seen that in some of the other ones that are starting the franchise. They do have to carry a lot of weight, and I recognize that.
Yeah.
And the sort of post-credit scene definitely gives you a clue of how they're going to connect these things a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to, there's a couple things that I think Marvel has done that in 50 years we'll look back and just be amazed by. And I think that is the casting that they do. It's crazy at this point to think that here's this character who was not probably one of the main, 4 or 5 Marvel characters. Mm-hmm. I don't want to offend any nerds that are listening to this, but that's my takeaway. And you've got Benedict Cumberbatch, you've got Chiwetel Ejiofor, Tilda Swinton, Mads Mikkelsen's in there. All of these, even was it Michael Stahlberg from A Serious Man has a teeny tiny role.
Sure.
Rachel McAdams, just all these these great actors, and I think probably. I don't know. I was wondering, if when the history is written, if they'll say, if that debt is really owed to Jon Favreau and Robert Downey Jr.,
mm-hmm.
or if they'll look at it more as, because I feel like maybe that's unfair to Sam Raimi and Tobey Maguire
for
the Spider-Man flicks, but at the same time, I feel like, Tobey was not at the level of establishment that Robert Downey Jr. was.
True.
And he did such a great job with Iron Man in making that such an appealing character and an exciting thing
mm-hmm.
in that first movie that it's hard to imagine why an actor would say no to these roles,
Yeah. Absolutely. That was a big leap of faith for Robert Downey Jr. for sure. But yeah,
mm-hmm.
he was kind of the perfect Tony Stark. There's really no one else who would have played that quite as well in terms of, at least where the character was when that movie came out, where that character was in the comic books when that movie came out. It was just, they've done an amazing job. They have a real universe of movies,
right?
Which really depend on each other, and Civil War is kind of such a great, huge payoff of all that stuff, of all the great casting, of all the storylines coming together. I don't know. Is it too much to say? That's really a one-of-a-kind movie. That's really not been done before.
Yeah, no, I think it is certainly unique.
Yeah.
I also think they have to be praised for the directors they hire.
Sure.
I found myself, I was like, who the hell is this that directed Doctor Strange? I've never heard of this person
mm-hmm.
before in my life. This is a gigantic movie. It's making a ton at the box office. And it's the guy that did the Sinister horror. He's a horror guy, And so there's no horror element in this movie whatsoever.
Yeah.
and and getting Taika Waititi, or I probably mispronounced his name, but the guy that's doing the new Thor movie, and all these guys, like it's crazy to me that they're pooling those people and putting that much faith in them, and it's awesome to see because it pays off obviously really well for the directors, not just financially, but for their career, and it's an interesting choice for a studio to go with this big of a movie. And then I also think like Marvel they're just great at comic relief. Like even though I was like definitely getting bored at times in Doctor Strange and confused, and it's just some of it frankly is just like hokey nonsense to me. Like it really is. Like I'm sorry, but again, it's probably the weight that they had to pull in this first one. Every 15 minutes you get a killer joke. Like you get something that makes the entire audience laugh, and like you need that stuff. Like you really, really do, and it helps so much, I think.
I agree.
All right, Craig, you ready to talk about box office?
Let's talk about it.
Oh man, I'm already dreading this.
Yeah, I got
so this episode
palms.
is dropping. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're putting this in your turkey and stuffing it. This is coming out the day before Thanksgiving, and guess what, man? You've got 4 pretty noted movies opening up that day. All right, you want to hear what they are?
Let's hear them.
I mean, you probably already bought tickets.
Mm-hmm.
You got Allied, the anticipated romantic thriller period war movie from Robert Zemeckis starring Brad Pitt and Marion Cotillard. You got Bad Santa 2, the long-awaited sequel that unfortunately is not being directed by Terry Zwigoff, although I still hope it's good, but I miss Terry Zwigoff. Mm-hmm. And you've got the new Pixar movie, Moana. I don't see how that's not going to be a gigantic hit.
Right.
And then also the much-anticipated and long-coming new movie from Warren Beatty, Rules Don't Apply, which stars Alden Ehrenreich, who is going to be young Han Solo. I think in one of the lead roles here, so it's a good chance to check out who this guy is.
Right.
Right?
I agree.
Holdovers from the previous week. Man, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, the new Harry Potter spinoff. Craig, I don't even know where to start. I'm sure Doctor Strange is still going to be hanging on in there too. You want to go first or you want me to go first?
Buddy, I'm going to go ahead and go first.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
I don't.
I'm not going to
at all.
I'm not going to belabor anything here. Or will I? We'll find out. Because I still have 2 more slots that I'm trying to figure out. Okay, here's what I think. Here's what it's going to be. Yeah, there's no way. There's no way Moana is not number 1. Talking about Thanksgiving weekend. Yeah. Yes, there's going to be a bajillion kids wanting to go see Moana. Right? Done. Moana's number 1.
Done.
Allied has to be number 2. Because I think that looks fantastic. Like,
I agree.
I'm looking forward to that one a lot. I think that's going to be number 2. I think Fantastic Beasts is going to come in at number 3. And then the last 2 are the tough ones because I think it's going to be either Billy Lynn's or Arrival are going to be in there somewhere.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Billy Lynn is expanding for sure.
Yeah. And
wow.
I know it's getting a big push.
Yeah.
Like people seem to really believe in it. Although, Doctor Strange could maybe still be in there. I don't know. You know what? I'm gonna go Fantastic Beasts. Then it's gonna be Doctor Strange, and then it's gonna be Billy Lynn.
How many are you doing?
Then it's gonna be Billy Lynn.
Oh my God, you're blowing my mind.
Yeah.
So okay, let's start from the top again because you lost.
Okay.
Moana.
So number 1, Moana. Number 2, Allied. Number 3, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Number 4, Doctor Strange. Number 5, Billy Lynn's. Yeah.
That's really good. I like that. I'm going to say also Moana's number 1. Mm-hmm. I think you're absolutely right there. I think Fantastic Beasts is going to hold at number 2.
All right.
I think there's just too much. Harry Potter is deep in our DNA at this point. I think that's holding it 2. I think... Man, this is tough.
Think hard.
I want Allied to be number 3. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna say I'm going to say Doctor Strange is still going strong at number 3.
Sean, I don't want to interrupt you here, but you're telling me you think a Zemeckis Brad Pitt movie that's coming out on Thanksgiving is not even going to make number 3.
I am telling you that, Craig.
All right.
I think, you know what? It's just it's harder to grab that adult audience. There's a lot of stuff there.
All right.
I think some people might be mad at Brad Pitt for maybe having a so-called affair with Marion Cotillard during the making of that movie.
I'll be honest with you. No one feels that way. Go ahead.
No, nobody does.
No.
I will say Allied is 4, and oh gosh, I hate to see Bad Santa not make the top 5, but I think Arrival will be number 5.
All right.
And there you have it.
All right. We'll probably nail those. We don't have our stats from last time by any chance, do we? I guess we could go back and...
They are on the Facebook page.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we did much better than the previous time when we got 0. So there's that. But yeah, definitely keep an eye on Facebook. The following Monday, we'll try to get that up there and show you the results.
Oh, I got those 2. And Hacksaw Ridge. Did I get all that? But not in. Okay, sorry.
No, you didn't get all that, dude.
Okay.
You had it. You had most of. We had most of them there, just not in the right order.
Right. But Boo, Medea Halloween didn't quite make it.
Didn't make the top 5. Finally.
You called Trolls. Oh, man, I thought Trolls was gonna die. Everybody I know, it doesn't matter.
Trolls never die.
Trolls never die. All right. Well, we're set then. We're locked in.
We are locked in. As always, thanks for listening, and yeah, come check out the full episode next week. We'll be back with more.
Agreed.